We're all yours, Derek.
Yeah, baby.
Scott, Christian, welcome to Action a Go Go. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having us. It's fun.
No, it's
Thanks for
absolutely
letting us be here for the action and the go.
there you go. So I'm going to be totally honest. I was not the core audience for this show growing up, so I had to learn the lore, the Yo Gabba Gabba history. I do have a 15-year-old daughter, and she didn't manage to catch this, but I got to catch it for her, so to speak. And I guess I got to start with the basics here. Where did this come from? How did you come up with this wild, wacky thing?
That's a good question.
Question.
I think me and Christian are both big kids, and we just love kids entertainment, the experience of being a child. And for us, being a kid or being a preschooler is like kind of just the best place to be.
Yeah, and Scott and we worked together for many years, and we had many adventures together, even outside of work. We were friends, we played, and we went to the beach together, and we hung out. And so, when we started having kids of our own, we were thinking of like, how can we extend this childhood, our childhood, into the childhood of our kids? And so putting the show together, the idea was like, well, how do we, what would be the perfect kids show that we could make that would kind of like embody our sensibilities, but like resonate with our kids and do something kind of for our kids and for our children that we could share with them, and that was really the impetus of it, how it began. And then just throwing in all the, it's like you're making a ice cream sundae with all the flavors.
All our favorite stuff, music, dancing, like
Yeah.
DJs, remixes, bands, like art, kind of everything we could pack into a show is what
Yeah,
our dream show was.
it's live action, it's cartoons, it's everything, it's music and bands and
Well, just to
celebrities and
well,
people
just
we respect, because and that's anyway, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to tune into music, right? Because I've got a buddy who's in a band, Ira Knox. I was in a band with him in the mid 2000s, so to speak, before I became a dad. But you guys are musicians, right? Like you're in bands, and is that how you first got to know each other? Or you're doing that before the show sort of thing?
I think
Music's been a running theme for sure. Christian, you're still in music. We love
Well,
music.
whether I'm a musician or not, that's debatable. I think that's debatable. But like, we're both huge. Like, our lives were shaped by music, as many people's were. I mean, Scott's family, his parents were musicians, and Scott was performing even from a young age. And my parents as well met in drama school. And so, like, we kind of come from performance families in a way, but music basically was what brought Scott and I together initially as teenagers. Scott was a DJ, and he DJ'd weddings and stuff. And I'm like, what? Let me check out your records. And I'm like, oh, you have this one. And then that's when we first met. We just like really, it was music that we really bonded over. And we were actually in a band together too as teenagers. And so, it's just one of those things that has always been a part of our lives together, you
That's
know.
awesome. That's awesome. Because I was watching the second episode and it's crazy. Like, Paul Williams makes an appearance, and I was just talking to my musician buddy about Paul Williams and his influence and everything. And I'm like, oh my God, these kids get to meet Paul Williams. You know what I mean? Which I just thought was super cool. And then I know in the original Gabba Gabba, like Biz Marquee did a beat of the day, and you're continuing that for him, which I just think is awesome. It's a great little tradition you're keeping through with the show.
Yeah, we're music fans. Like we love all types of music. And I think that that's kind of like the common ground for starting this was like it doesn't have to just be one style of music. It doesn't have to just be hip hop or just be kind of DJ remix or rock. Like we kind of wanted all the flavors of the rainbow. So I think that's kind of the core of Yo Gabba Gabba is the music.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and like there was a bunch of stuff that we got exposed to as kids on, our like let I mean we can say it, but children's TV and entertainment has changed so much over the years, and kind of in a lot of ways in drastic ways. And when we were kids, Paul Williams was on TV all the time, not just his music, but he was like a celebrity. He was on like Hollywood Squares and stuff. And Paul Williams was a big part of our childhood. And he also wrote so many jams that we all listen to. They're classic. And so that was one of our bucket list things. And that's the fun thing about making our show is Scott and I like go, well, wouldn't it be awesome to have Paul Williams on the show? Or what if Biz Markie taught kids how to beatbox? Or, actually targeting some of these pioneers like Mark Mothersbaugh and other people to actually come be part of this and pass on what they do onto the next generation, because they did it to us the first time around. So like, let's just keep it going, keep the ball rolling. Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Were there any other, just as musicians, right? Any other specific influences that you guys could point to as like your North Star? I'm thinking anybody, David Bowie, Elton John, whoever, you know what I mean? But anything like that
Yes.
you talk about?
All the above. Definitely David Bowie for sure. Love David Bowie. I mean, we've had the privilege of, because we were never really inviting bands to make the show more popular. We were just inviting bands who really wanted to participate in the fun, the awe, the wonder of being a kid. And so really the people that kind of came were, mostly the people that wanted to be there for the kids, like the Flaming Lips. Yeah. I mean, Thundercat was so amazing this year.
Yeah.
On top of your list, Christian, who do you think?
Yeah. And like, again, we really go after people that we feel like, because we have, our musical influences are big and wide, everything from rock to, Western to hip hop to dance music to techno to electronic. Like we like all the good stuff. And so there's a lot of good stuff out there. And so we really kind of wade into the pool of our influences to pull people onto the show that we feel like, oh, this would be perfect, or this kind of energy would be great for the kids. And usually if we can make it happen, it's perfect. And like a lot of people want to come back and play in the sandbox. And, in some ways being an artist or a musician, it's kind of extending the, like, your imaginative life, like we've all worked jobs in places we're not happy with, but like being able to be a musician or be an artist is something that's like, you're extending the fantasy of like, I can survive and be an artist. That's wild. And so we really want to put that DNA into the show. If we can, we try to bring those type of artists onto the show that are like embodying that, or personifications of artists that are like thriving and surviving and giving a great example to our kids of different things and different ways to like extend the fantasy. Right? Does that make any sense?
Extend the fantasy, Christian. Yes.
Well, when you talk about these things, like I got to interview the guys who created Curses, right? That's another Apple TV show. And you talk about all these things and how to dilute it for children, right? Because I think this is angled towards preschoolers, right? So maybe not necessarily Sesame Street level, which I loved, of course. I'm sure that must have been an influence here, but boiling it down and making sure they can understand these concepts like sharing water. I think you guys do a really good job of that in terms of crystallizing it for younger kids. But maybe we could just change gears a little bit and talk about the art style or the style of the show. Do you have a language for that? Because and this isn't a kid show, but I was thinking of sort of Rick and Morty while watching it. Like they have a specific style for that show, not for kids, right? But is that something you bring to the table when you're talking to your teams that are creating this and building the show?
Yeah, I think GABA definitely has a specific style, but I wouldn't say it's a style that we sort of preconceived. It's a style that feels very authentic to me and Christian as humans. and in how we kind of see the world, how we approach, artistic, creative things, like us as just basic creators. Like, we're trying to show kids of the world, you can view the world in many different ways, right? And here's one way to look at it, with awe, with imagination, with wonder. I think it's sort of looking at the world non-traditionally, maybe a little bit weird, a little bit psychedelic, a little bit wild, but always exciting. And kids kind of resonate with that, because we're not just hitting storytelling, we're hitting experience of life, physically dancing, emotional, feeling our emotions in the music, all that stuff.
Yeah, and like there's kind of like a DIY thing going on, because it is very much DIY. Like, it's very much, and do it yourself or dad it yourself. It's like dad's like with magic markers on the boxes in the garage and cutting them out, and like, literally when we made the pilot, we were like carving stuff out of foam and painting it ourselves. And we also have an art director. My brother Parker also is a big part of the look of the show, but it's really like our little team of caregivers and parents and dads and moms that are just like, we're building this kind of abstract world for our kids to, again, extend the imagination. Like, if we came into the thing and made everything super realistic, then you have there's no imagination. But the abstractness of GABA is basically deliberate gaps, so that kids can fill in the gaps. Like, oh, that's a tree, or that's a this, or that's a that. Because we feel like stretching the imagination of our children is so important. It's just like, you want to give your kids nutrition and make sure they're healthy, and medicine and all that, but also giving your kids the tools to stretch their imagination, we feel like is super important as well. And so the kind of deliberate abstractness of Yo Gabba Gabba it's there by design, like, we're doing it deliberately to like help the kids to bridge the gaps. Like, oh, okay. And, with our new show, Yo Gabba Gabba Land on Apple TV Plus, hey, we built a 3-dimensional world that stretches way off into the distance. And Scott and I's, hope and feeling is like, okay, yes, the messages are important, but we also want kids to have one eye on the horizon and be like, what's off there? What's over there? What could I go explore over there? Because those are the type of things we want to leave behind to our children, like the feeling of exploration and discovery and going out and finding out what's out there, like what is in the world. Because we feel like, everything is so in your face all the time, but what's out there, you know what I mean? That's what we really want to help impart with the style of the show, for sure.
No, that's awesome. That's so important for kids. And just to touch on that, one of my favorite little parts of the show is when someone's reading the story to the child, and then they just sort of fill in the blanks with this crazy stuff. It's cute always seeing kids do that, but I think it touches on your point of convincing them to be a part of the process and to convince them to create. That's really cool.
Yeah, because that's the creators, right? I mean, that's who will create our world next. And so giving them those tools or those opportunities, and the story times things was, an extension of what we did on the old show. We just told a story, and the new story, the new story time, that was Scott's brainchild. So Scott, you got to jump in there and like.
Yeah, I think it's a good illustration for the fundamentals of how Yo Gabba Gabba approaches the kids. It's less of a teacher trying to teach little kids, and it's more of like, how can we come down to preschool and like find common ground between adults and preschoolers? And that's a co-creation. Like, that's an empowerment that you can't teach kids. That's allowing kids to the table to be their authentic selves, and us as parents participating in that. That's pretty much the joy of what we're searching for in the whole show. But story times really capture that for sure.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And this is my last question. We are running short on time.
No
shows.
problem. We have long answers, so that's probably.
No, it's okay. Please, this is your platform. The shows between the previous show and Yo Gabba Gabba Land available on Apple TV. Have
Let's
you
go Apple, yeah.
have you all had the opportunity? I'm sure you have, but have you had the opportunity to see the legacy in action, or people who've like thanked you for the show or told you about their experiences growing up with it or anything like that?
So many beautiful moments. It's wild. Even 15 years later, the fans that come, we just did Comic-Con where people were just expressing the joy they had, experiencing Yo Gabba the first time around. So I feel like it's so exciting to be able to do it again, bring back the magic again for the kids now.
Agreed. And it always kind of reminds Scott and I when we meet people that have been touched and affected by the show in their families, because as a parent, when you have a child and they're passionate about something or something makes them happy, you want to like lean into that, like, okay, we're going that way. Like if my kid likes this, we're going that way because we just want our children to be happy. So to be able to meet people who we've made their families happy with our ideas and with our show, it's really a reminder of that the show is kind of bigger than the sum of its parts. It's just it's big, it's turned into this really positive thing that we need in our world. We need positivity and love, and Scott and I are super grateful that we've been able to be a part of this ride, but just to leave something positive behind for families and the world, and because we need it. Let's be positive. Right.
I don't think there's a better way to end it than with that. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to talk to me. Congratulations on building a legacy and kicking things off with Apple for Yo Gabba Gabba Land.
Thanks for having us, Derek.
Thank you, Derek. Yeah. Action a go-go. Yeah.
All right. That's right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Have a great day.
All right, man. You too.
This is Derek Scarzella. Thank you so much for watching this video. Just doing a quick outro. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Above all, we want to hear what you have to say about this video, this movie, what it meant to you. Also, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, of course, YouTube. Check out our website, actionagogo.com. And of course, you can check out my own novels, Knuckle Crackbone, as well as The Vicious Game. Links are all down below. We also have a merch store if you want to enjoy our glorious Action A Go Go electric logo, which is going to come right after this. And of course, again, thank you so much for watching. It's super appreciated. Hope you had a good time. I know we did. Bye.